church. At the first sign of trouble, you schismed off and you made your own fucking religions, okay? Because you couldn't handle reflecting your life decisions, finding your values. Yeah, fuck. Adam recommended I watch this movie. I downloaded it. I just haven't watched it yet. Like, I mean, it's just part of the journey, dog. I did the shit like that. Church. I remember you talked with Brittany where you mentioned that talking about concept of death can usually be shallow, but I believe Synecdoche, New York, I think, handles it in a very unique way, and it gives an intense experience of the accelerating feeling you're getting older and you're reflecting your life decisions, finding your values. Yeah, fuck. Adam recommended I watch this movie. I downloaded it. I just haven't watched it yet. He said it's his favorite movie of all time, though. I hope I watch it at some point soon. I just need to stop being lazy. As a former Christian, hearing you talk about Catholicism as Christianity makes me hurt. That is true. That's like my only perspective. But, I mean, when you're a Catholic, you're an elitist, okay? All the other Christianities are fake. You fucking losers ran away from the church. At the first sign of trouble, you schismed off and you made your own fucking religions, okay? Because you couldn't handle it. You didn't want to be reformists. You're disgusting losers, okay? Why would I have any respect for you? When you started making money after being poor, was there a level of income that you thought, if I can just make that, I'll be set, and you blew by that, making much more? There's like 2 points. There's like one thing. Basically, this sounds really dumb, but like basically once I had $10,000 in the bank, I just stopped caring about everything because I'm like, oh, cool. Like, yeah. And then after that, it was just like watching a number go up. Having a buffer makes everything in life just like way more easy. Like when you have a buffer, you're just like, you stop caring about like one thing that it feels like. Here's like a feeling you have when you're poor. It always feels like everything goes wrong all the time, but that's not actually true. Everything goes wrong for a lot of people all the time. It's just that they can usually afford it. And when something bad happens, it doesn't set back everything so many different levels. Like my experience is, thank God I was always in good health, because if you have health issues, I imagine that would be a whole other experience that I can't even relate to. So holy fuck, thank you. Car stuff was always the big thing for me. If you pop a tire, if you, God forbid, if you break a wheel, because I lived in the Midwest and our potholes are horrible. If you neglect big repairs, if you have like a contact engine and you have like a timing belt go out, oof. If you get like bad engine fuck ups, like your camshaft, like you need to, like you're looking at like $1,000 repairs, and you'd always have these problems because you're never keeping up on maintenance on your vehicles. You can't afford the $600 bullshit. You can't, like, so you just drive it into the fucking ground. I got my catalytic converter stolen. No one cares. When you're poor, that check engine light is a sign of status. You drive with that shit on all the time. Like O2 sensor, I don't know what that means, other than I have to fill my tank up with more gas because I'm always going to be running rich because my shit is fucked. But like the check engine light is, you put tape over it, you ignore that shit. You keep on driving. You ain't got time for that bullshit. Yeah, that was always the biggest problem, is that like one problem would always snowball into like 15 other things. And like you just, at some point you drop the plates and you've got to like take a breather and like kind of pick everything up again. Yeah. No catalytic converter is kind of a big deal. Not if you live in a state that doesn't do emissions tests, which I don't think Nebraska does. So taking out debt fucks you super hard when you're poor and only helps when you're wealthy. Something that they changed, I think, for you guys. Here are like 2 of the most, absolutely, I will say, retarded things about being poor is, and it doesn't even make sense, but like being too scared to check your bank account was like the dumbest thing in the world. And I just remember that feeling so much, like, okay, I'm just not going to check my bank account. But like, why? Why would you not check it? You're so stupid. It's like, I just don't want to see it. But the problem is like, you know what the best line of credit you ever got? There is a line of credit. I think they made this illegal now, so you guys don't know this feeling, okay? You guys don't know this feeling, okay? Every poor person has access to unlimited credit, an unlimited line of credit. Top secret. They don't tell the middle class people about this. They don't tell the rich people about this, okay? You have access to as much credit as you want. It's called the goddamn motherfucking overdraft fees, okay? And I swear to fucking God, when they do your fucking balance at the end of the day, I swear to God, they will sort your shit from most to fucking least. You might have like 80 bucks in the bank, and then you go and buy something for 5 bucks, something for 10 bucks, something for 20 bucks, and something for 50 bucks, and they'll put the $50 charge first, and they'll fuck you with like $130 of overdraft fees. Are you fucking kidding me? Bro, just reject my card. Just tell me I don't have the money. I don't want to get charged for this shit. Oh my God, dude. The $35 was like the overdraft fee. That's so insane. Bro, you overdraft 3 times and you're like missing like half of one of your paychecks depending on where you're working. You're like, fucked. Fuck that. Holy shit. That shit was some bullshit. Just reject me. Just tell me that I can't afford it, okay? Don't tantalizingly lure me in. And then when I go to check my bank statement later, oh, my card got declined. Guess I've got $2 in my account. Wrong, bitch. Your card got declined. You have 170. Negative 170 your account. You overdrafted 6 times. Good luck, motherfucker. Like, okay, thanks. My bank let me overdraft 5K at 19. Jesus. My GF sister that is 22 and is a student that is 20% job position. Don't know if that's the right word in English. Now has 10K in debt on clothing and she can't pay it back. One thing that I will say, I got lucky in 2 different things. One is that like I had a good education, so I never got into the credit card or payday loan game. Like I was on the verge of losing my house. I'll lose my house. But like worst case for me, my net worth will be 0. It will never be in the negative thousands and thousands of dollars, except for student loans. Yeah, I never juggled credit cards. I never did payday loans ever. I'll lose my house before doing that shit because you're going negative. You're just fucking yourself up. That was one thing. And then the, oh fuck, I just forgot the second thing. Oh, the second thing was my hobbies were very cheap. I liked computer games. As long as I had a computer, I could pirate everything I needed. Didn't give a fuck about clothes. Didn't give a fuck about shoes. Didn't give a fuck about any of that shit. I didn't need to buy anything. And I weighed 100 pounds, so my food intake was cheap as fuck. It was like, what, 1,600 calories a day to survive, maybe? Maybe less, I don't know. Play video games, pirate everything. No fucking wasted money on anything, okay? Easy survival, baby. My buddy has a system where he just maxes all credit cards and then goes bankrupt every 5 or 7 years whenever he can. Is your friend's name Sam? Did you need VPNs back then? No. When did you stop pirating games? When Steam became easier, more accessible. What were your go-to meals while you were poor? Haha! Every night? 2 double cheeseburgers, and then you get a cup for water, and you get a Sprite at McDonald's, baby. 2 double cheeseburgers, $2, okay? That was cash fucking money. The $1 double cheeseburger and a cup for water that you got Sprite in. That's what you had every night for dinner. Hell yeah. That had to have been like the cheapest fucking, most filling calories that existed back then. Taco Bell was probably pretty good as well, but it was the $1 double cheeseburgers for McDonald's. Oh, and Little Caesars as well, because you could pay $5 and get a whole ass fucking pizza. Little Caesars might have actually been more calories per dollar. Do you ever have anything preserving hunger experience, like timing your meals so you're not hungry before bed? No, but like I was a hungry skeleton. Like not hungry, I was just a skeleton. So I was like never hungry much. I could like eat very little and do okay. McDoubles are like 50 cents cheaper than a double cheeseburger, and the difference is literally a single slice of cheese. Nice. McDouble is actually like the best food for the cost. Nice. I used to sign up for new checking accounts, deposit maybe $20 to get it started. I would make sure I didn't have overdraft protection and find the banks at the highest amount you could overdraft. Then overdraft the limit, then move on to the next one. Jesus. I used to get a McDouble and a McChicken and then make a McGangbang. Okay. Based. Okay. Have you ever stopped eating for more than 2 days? I experienced some euphoria on the 3rd day. No, that sounds painful. The meta for cheap fast food now is you have to be using their apps. Really? How was your ex-wife while double cheeseburgering your way through life? When I was with my wife, I was actually making decent money. The double cheeseburger era was it would have been years It would have been my junior and senior year in high school. So she would have just been my girlfriend then, but I would never ask her for one. I'd kill myself. I think this is common among working poor people, which actually irritates the fuck out of me with conservatives. Looking back on my life, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of welfare and shit that I could have qualified for, but I was way too proud to do that. I couldn't imagine. Because like my family, like you work. Like if you can't afford shit, you work. And if you still can't afford shit, then you just work more until you can afford it. When conservatives talk about like working poor people as like lazy or like undisciplined or unmotivated, that really irritates me because I think most people want to be able to work and pay for their shit. And I'm pretty sure Americans work more, I'm pretty sure than even the Japanese. I think Americans work more hours than any other country in the fucking world. It's unreal. But, source? I don't know. Can somebody find it? Which country works most hours? Let's check. Maybe it's not true. 10 countries with the longest work week. Maybe I'm thinking only of like OECD countries. Longest work weeks, OECD. Turkey, Colombia, and Mexico all have work weeks that are over 40 hours long. The longest is in Colombia, where workers are expected to clock in 47. Is this what you're expected to work, or is this... The US is at 19. What is OECD? Economic... What does it stand? It's like all of like the decent countries. What does it stand for? Something development? Or, Jesus, I don't remember what it stands for. But it's like all of like the decent countries. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Like the ones that whenever you look at a map and you see like generally it's like green and then everything else is red, usually those are like the OECD countries. I don't know how else to put it. Like, yeah. Who beats us? Lithuania, Iceland, Greece, Slovenia, Latvia, Slovakia. Damn, where did I read this a while ago? I thought that I read that Americans work more hours. I read this in the context of people talking about like guaranteed vacation time. Maybe not. Or maybe it was a certain class of people, like working class or whatever. Good luck, Ash Hash. No shot this is accurate. It has Greece above us. Is Greece the country, or am I thinking of Italy, where they take like an hour siesta, like a nap in the middle of the day? Japanese person record. The average Japanese employee works 1,644 hours, lower than workers in Spain, Canada, and Italy by comparison. The average American worker works 1,779 hours. Oh, is that Spain? The U.S. is the most overworked developed nation in the world. Huh. These are paid vacation. Bro, you have so many guaranteed paid vacation days in Europe. It's so embarrassing. What the fuck? How do they measure this though? Because it was so much different than the other countries. 20somethingfinance.com. The stats have to be fake. Nobody in Southern Europe works that much per week. Yeah.
Monsters can be made to fear.
Gym flares have been the best motivator for getting big. Nice. Your overlays all fucked up. Well, it's because I have a thing. Just suck my dick.
Not so fast. Another piece for my collection.
Okay. How is it possible I eat 3,200 calories a day but can't put on weight? That's not true. You count your calories. You're going to find out you're not eating that many. What is the average days off of work that Americans get versus other countries, though? Lots of jobs get plenty of time off nowadays. It's just not legally required. That might be the case with, like, middle-class jobs, but I never got to work any of those jobs. Where, for working-class jobs, you don't get time off. Well... okay. I don't know who had this. I don't know if this is coming or not. I got vacation time at my casino job. You build a decent amount of vacation time. Like, I think for the first 5 years, I think you would get up to 1 week of vacation, paid vacation per year. But you could never fucking schedule it. And it dropped off after a year. So, like, you would have your paid vacation time accruing, but anytime you try to schedule, like, hey, can I take next week off? Hey, can I take this off? Like generally, no one can cover for you. Like, you can't. Like, you're fucked. It's like, okay, well, what the fuck do I do? Oh, we'll cash it out. Okay, so then I get, like, a bonus check. That was my PTO experience. I don't know if it's like that with everybody else, but PTO is basically just like, oh, cool, you get, like, a bonus check, like, I guess, like, once a year when you go to cash it all out because you can never fucking take time off. Or maybe if you're lucky, you can get like a Wednesday off, or like a Tuesday or a Wednesday off if you're lucky. If someone can fill for you.
And you think like everything's just gonna be safe. You gotta take your precautions.
Yeah.
That is your responsibility. And to somebody to clean that victim blame, it's like, bruv, are you people allergic to accountability?
Yeah.
Am I like? And why is this only about sex? That's what I don't understand. You get what I'm saying?
What do you mean?
Like, we don't have that kind of talk generally about getting robbed or all this stuff. Like, generally, most people are not.
Oh.
I find that's concentrated.
Yeah, that's another example I always go to too, because I try to draw the difference. Like, there's a difference between like responsibility and saying that it's somebody's fault for something. You know, like I talk about this a lot with the examples I brought up were getting robbed and defensive driving, right? That like there are times where when I'm driving, like even though I know that legally I have the right of way and you know I'm all in the clear, somebody else is driving crazy and I might back off or I might yield where I'm not supposed to otherwise because I don't want to be in front of this like crazy fucking driver. If he were to hit me and I wasn't doing that, that doesn't make it my fault. He's still 100% at fault. But there's like some level of responsibility I could have exerted to avoid that situation. Like I can have some agency over myself. I don't have to just subject myself to the whims of, you know, whatever dude is on the road and decides to be crazy that day. But like if you have that conversation in a sexual context, yeah, people always get like super ass, man.
Yeah, where's that from? What is that? What is that?
I mean, I think that there is, or at least at one point, there was like a lot of like dismissal of like women having these issues, where they would get blamed for men like legitimately like engaging in horrible behavior and shit.
Right, rather than thinking the men have to take any accountability in this circumstance, it's like, well, why were you wearing that or whatever? Yeah. I also think there's a bit of a dishonest pushback sometimes when you mention like any of these safety precautions, where people are like, well, you're saying a woman shouldn't leave her house because if she moves her house, I think we can all understand the difference between reasonable steps you can take to protect yourself and like little stuff you can do. It's something like don't leave the home. It's like
because that's like everybody kept responding to it. It was like, oh, so you're saying women should just never leave their homes? Like, man, motherfucker, you can't think if there's no in between for you? Seriously? Yeah.
that confused the shit out of me. It's like, I'm not telling every person in the shitty neighborhood to carry a bazooka on them so they can threaten somebody who robs them. Know what I mean?
Or turn into like, fucking Batman or something, right? Yeah, like there are steps in between that we can.
Yeah, but you know, like if you love somebody, maybe you will tell them, hey, bro, don't walk down the dark alley with all the homeless people who are like crackheads. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're in Los Angeles, maybe don't walk through Skid Row at midnight.
Yeah,
that's victim blaming. You imagine the motherfuckers walking through Skid Row, bunch of crackheads doped out of their mind, get robbed at midnight. And you're like, bro, why were you there? Don't victim blame.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yep. I mean, hey, what are you going to do?
That shit blew me away. I'd love to be able to talk to one of these ladies one day. I think I might do that. I just want to ask them, like,
comfort breeds weakness.
Are you special? I mean,
hey, listen. There's a lot of these Twitch panels. You can hop on one of them one time if you want.
I just want to ask these ladies, like, why though? You know what I mean? Like, you know what it is too? I cringe so hard when like white women go to like Morocco or something. They go off in the Atlas Mountains with like these 2-3 Arab dudes that they just met there, and they get their head chopped off. Like, I mean, it's tragic.
Yeah.
It's tragic. I mean, you know, what the fuck were you doing there?
Yeah.
Oh, victim blaming. Sure. Maybe. What were you doing in Afghanistan in a rural town when you can't speak the language, you don't know anybody there? You know what I mean? Oh, now you're a hostage? I mean, it's bad. Kinda.
No, well, it is bad. It is bad, to be fair.
I mean, no, it's bad, but I mean, you know.
But also, like, pretty dumb. It's like, of all the ways to die, this is probably one of, like, the more avoidable ones. Right.
Can we say it's stupid? Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Because it is. I'm sorry, but it is. That's fucking stupid. That's so stupid. And somebody needs to tell you it's stupid so that your kids or your sisters or your friends and family don't go and repeat the same thing thinking everything's supposed to be okay. Someone needs to tell you, not only is this tragic,
it's avoidable.
yes.
Yeah.
In some cases it is. Not always. Not all the time, right? But in some cases it is. And I think most people, right, are capable of telling the difference. If you're chilling in your living room and there's a drive-by, right, and you just catch a stray bullet, nobody's going to be like, what were you doing in your living room watching TV? Nobody says that. Right? But if you just met someone for the first time, like, yo, I'm going to make a drug deal, and you just roll with them, and then you get shot in the crossfire, I might ask some questions.
Yeah.
I might ask some questions. But anyways, I don't want to beat a dead horse.
No, it's all good. We've we've run the loop on this conversation quite a bit. It's pretty mind blowing, but you know, what are you gonna do? I think the more macro discussion that I think should be happening, rather than being focused on this, and I think a lot of people don't understand this, especially when it comes to, you know, sexual boundaries, all this stuff, and it kind of happens in the more nebulous area that we started on, which is people's inability to communicate, men being expected to be the aggressors or the ones pushing, women being the receptors, and all this kind of a dance that's very kind of ingrained culturally. And this is especially true for minority communities, because they adhere to traditional gender roles far more, right? They'll want you to push the envelope, to make the moves. They don't want everything to be explicit. And I think a big part of why they don't like things being explicit is from a lot of sexual repression through religion and things like that. Even though they'll be out there having sex, they never talk about sex. Because sex is a sin, right? Outside of marriage. You can go to countries where everybody's out there fucking all day long, right? Like, you go to Iran, for example. Women out there maintain their virginities, but giving up their assholes to everybody. Sure.
Why? Because they want to be out here fucking, but they're not really educated on STDs, even though that's one of the most risky ways to have sex, right? They're not talking about sex, but folks are having sex, okay? So you have a bit of a hotbed or some kind of concoction that is just ripe for terrible sexual encounters. Not just the stuff that's illegal, like rape and all this other stuff, but also just bad sex, one-sided sex. Things where boundaries are crossed, but you don't understand they were crossed because you didn't really know that was a boundary that you had, but you felt fine. There's a lot of that happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's another person, Joe, and I talk to about this sometimes, and I think our number one takeaway is usually that, like, basically all of the sex conversations stop and start with, like, here's how to, like, get men not to rape, and then hopefully, like, you don't get raped, and then that's it, basically. That's where they all are.
Yeah. I find that kind of messaging so confusing, because then men are just terrified of having the label of rapist thrown on them or anything, but they haven't actually learned how to even avoid any of those miscommunications.
Yeah, something.
For me, one of the.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you go.
I was just gonna say, one thing that I struggle with so much is, especially now that I'm a bit older, right? I'm much more comfortable in a sexual setting. I'm comfortable with how I look. I'm comfortable with how women's different bodies look. I'm comfortable with talking. I'm comfortable with lights on, all that stuff. I have to do so much labor to get women to just be comfortable talking. And this is a woman who's comfortable sharing her life with me, a lot of like intimate stuff about her personal life. But when it comes to sex, they still have so many mental blocks.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing 200% of the work just to get them to be like, this hurts or this doesn't feel good, right? But just because I'm capable of doing that, I don't think it's reasonable to expect everybody to be able to do that, because maybe not everyone has the self-esteem. In my younger years, I certainly didn't have it. To expect me to be able to do all of that, to manage her insecurities, to manage mine, to be sensitive enough to detect like all this shit, like it's not possible.
Or it's a very, again, with the infantilizing thing, you're putting a lot of responsibility on the guy there to figure out like both ends, like to manage his own emotions, hopes, dreams, horniness, awkwardness, like everything. And then for the woman to just kind of sit there and have the guy basically do everything.
Yeah. Like, listen, every now and then I'll meet a girl who's super sexually open and very good at talking about what she wants and what she doesn't want. And it's like, damn, okay, that's really nice.
Yes.
It's such a different vibe. But that's not most people. So I'm always confused about people like be like, this is my boundary, this is my friend. Nobody really talks about that. Like they might say like, oh, I'm not into that. I don't want to do it. Like, okay, that's like the extreme stuff is what we'll say.
Sure.
But a lot of the little things they'll never mention anything. They're not even comfortable saying what they like a lot of the time.
Yeah, or even worse, sometimes they don't even know what they like. Yeah.
Yes. So my question is, how can you say that these people should be out here hooking up and doing all this other stuff if they're not even comfortable doing that? Right?
Yeah, and I think I asked that question over and over again because that was kind of where I was at yesterday. I was like, hey, so let's say that a woman says that she can get stealth over and over again, but she's too awkward to bring anything up. Like, would you tell that woman if she told you that? Would you tell her that she should just, go out and have sex and, whatever happens, happens? Like, what would you say to a woman like that? And like the response that like I unironically get, like people will say they're like, well, I would tell her, good luck. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? That's so fucked up. Why would you say that? Like, no, there's gotta be, we can do better than that. I think we can do better than that, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little wild, but
yeah, that is the poor, and that's also the advice I got pretty much from my sex ed teacher. It was good luck. I didn't learn shit. I didn't know fuck all. I didn't know how vaginas worked. I didn't even know how to find it. You feel me? Like, we don't learn any of that. So we're not getting it from the teachers. The public sphere is definitely not talking about it in a productive way other than don't be a rapist, which, that's
nobody likes to think of themselves as, No. That's another thing that's really hard. Somebody made a post on my subreddit. I'm glad they did it, but I've also gotten emails like this before too, because like I'll talk about situations in the past where like I fucked up. I absolutely have. I've done things that like probably would be considered probably at multiple times in my life as like a teenager and maybe my early 20s. And I don't mind framing it that way because like I know who I am. I'm comfortable with all my stuff. Like nobody's gonna come out and accuse me of rape. I'm not like that's not a thing that I'm concerned about. I'm more concerned with like
what you think.
Well, yeah. Well, we say that now. We'll say, no. Actually, I'm super not concerned. Fuck it. Whatever comes may come. Fuck it. Just because I know how I control myself. I don't care. But just me being able to like say that or being able to have like really honest conversations about that, I noticed that it helps other people like view past things that they've done that have been kind of fucked up as well.
Yeah.
Bagging up 10 years, we used to talk about the F a lot. I would never rethink my stance on it because all of the people that would argue against me saying, Destiny, don't use the F, would always say you can't use it because you're homophobic. And I know I'm not homophobic. And I wasn't homophobic even when I said it. So I would instantaneously discount every single thing those people had to say because I'm not homophobic, fuck you. And it wasn't until like I did a lot of introspection and ran into a lot of other situations later on in life, I'm like, you know what? I think there are good reasons not to use this word. And then I finally switched over. I think that when it comes to sexual, like whatever kind of things, I think that similar things happen where if you start a conversation off saying like, hey, if you did this, you're a rapist, a lot of people, like, they're not going to interest me. They're going to think like, well, hold on, I'm not a rapist. I know I'm not. I'm not even going to stop and think about this. I don't need to because I'm not a rapist. But I think creating the space for people to kind of like reflect, be like, hey, these are kind of like shitty things you can do sexually. Like maybe we shouldn't do these types of things. Creating that space where somebody can think of that and they don't have to frame themselves as being like a fucking horrible rapist to do so, I think can be helpful to get people to take a step back and reflect on things that they've done in the past. Like, you know what? Shit, I have done some of these things. Or like, I did, like, a guy made a big post on my subreddit basically about how he, like, had a girl, they were fucking, they took a shower, and he stealthed through the shower because he didn't think it was a big deal, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, looking back on this, I think it was actually really shitty. But I think it's really hard to have those moments of reflection otherwise because, like, nobody wants to think of themselves as being, like, a horrible, evil rapist,
Or they don't want everybody coming down on them like they're the fucking second coming.
That too, yeah. So
High
you
of
never,
Hitler,
you can't
right?
admit anything. Yeah.
No, you can't. If I'm being honest, I've had my boundaries pushed so many times, and I've also pushed boundaries. And here's the awkward thing about it, is that the way we're initiated to sex is to push boundaries, to test the limits, sometimes go a little bit beyond, sometimes do all that stuff. And that is a part of dating in everyday like intimacy and flirting that is present and that we all understand and know, but we don't want to admit in a lot of ways because we don't understand how it internalizes in our head in regards to how we approach intimacy and sex. For example, women will say, don't ask me to kiss me, just do it.
Sure.
What does that mean, though? Think about what that means. You're supposed to read the signs. What signs? What signs? What, if she puts her fingers behind her ear and pulls her hair back? What's that? What does that mean? What does that mean, though? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think it means she likes me or she's attracted to me. Or maybe she's fucking nervous. I don't know. Let me assume.
Or even outside of like, even outside of sexual circumstances, like there's kind of a dance that you play. Like, let's say that you really like somebody.
Yeah.
You don't just say like, hey, just like, you know, I super like you. I think we should date. That's like, even if the person does like you, you might have already fucked up then. Because I was like, ooh, that person came out real strong. Like, I don't know about this one. And then and then they'll back off a little, right? Instead, you kind of have to like, you play a dance. You're like, hey, let's go get some coffee, right? Let's do this. And then you kind of like, you gauge each other's feelings and you kind of do this dance back and forth. And so you figure like, okay, cool. Okay, we're on the same page, right? But it's always going to be a little bit pushy until you figure out you're going to run into something where the other person's like, no, I don't want to do that, right? And then you'll run into something, oh, okay, well, shit, that was the boundary. We can't, they don't like me that much, right? And that same dance plays out in sex. But when it happens when you're making asks for like relationship shit or trying to get close to somebody, like, well, then it's okay because you run into the boundary and then it doesn't work or whatever. Or maybe you even go past it. Maybe you're on a date and you think that like there's a vibe or whatever and you go to like put your hand on their leg or something and they're like, no, I'm not into that. You're like, oh shit, okay. And then you feel like, fuck, I like them more than they like me or whatever. And then that happens. But like that's how we play out everything, you know? So it's not surprising that kind of sexually it plays out similarly, you know.
Of course, because I mean, once you're in a naked state, you're even more vulnerable and uncomfortable and insecure.
Yeah.
Because how do we feel about our naked bodies, especially in our younger days? Right? There's even more insecurity to these things, so we freeze up even more.
Yeah.
Right? So expecting free-flowing conversation, like, bitch, who are you fucking? Who are these people who are 20 and super confident, comfortable talking about sex? Who? I have no idea. Even late 20s, I don't know.
Yeah.
In fact, you know, because you don't know what people are going through in terms of like body dysmorphia or whatever the fuck it is. The idea that people are like, yeah, it's what I like. What?
And then if you look
I
at like,
can tell you, yeah, listen, I go all ages, been with it all, right? It's unless the woman's in her like 40s and she done a whole lot of shit, they don't like talking that much.
Sure.
They're not that comfortable with themselves.
yeah.
So I'm always confused by the standards these people are setting and all these talks that they're saying people have. Ooh, I remember one girl was a fucking sex ed teacher in college talking about consent workshops. I got this bitch in bed. She didn't say a fucking word.
Sure.
Didn't say all that shit that she was teaching. All that shit that she was teaching. She tried to just slide a finger in my ass. I was like, what's wrong with you? Most people ask me, what's wrong with you? Right? So I'm always confused by that stuff. Or even like, you know, one thing you guys were talking about is how the terms are loaded.
Oh yeah, God, because people
Right,
just, like,
right.
Like I would say that probably like 80% of first sexual encounters or first, second, third sexual encounters between teenagers would probably like if I just explain the situation, it's going to be every single time. Like
Every
wow,
time.
somebody's like pressuring him, or oh my God, they didn't have any. Like oh my God, rape. Like it's all rape. Like it's all rape all the way down. Everybody's been everybody when they're fucking teenagers. Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Yeah.
Let me give you an example. This is an experience that happened to me. Tell me what you think. I went to a girl's place. We had a good time. We didn't actually end up having sex, but you know, it was our first date. We had a good time. I ended up passing out. Okay, woke up. Okay, this girl was on top of me. I was inside of her. All right, and I was confused at first. I thought it was a dream. Then I realized it wasn't a dream, and man, that shit was hot as hell. Okay, I was like, I got into it. We never discussed it beforehand. Everyone looked at me. They're like, bro, you got raped.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I enjoyed it. And then they got mad at me for saying that.
Yeah. I had this.
And I'm like, but that was my experience. Like, what you want me to lie to you? Do you want me to say like, oh my God, I'm a victim? You want me to say like, that changed me? No, that shit is like, it's a fantasy of mine now. Like, I'm hoping I wake up with a girl on top of me. Like, I be having dreams about succubus and shit like that, like demons. Yo, let's get it popping.
Yeah, I literally had that.
If I say I enjoyed my experience, so I'm like, don't use the word rape. Let's just don't give that to me. because obviously I can't enjoy what happened.
I had this exact same conversation with a guy yesterday where I gave an example of like somebody did this thing and it was it was a girl woke me up fucking me and I've never had that happen before, and I was like, well, we didn't talk about that beforehand or anything. That wasn't anything to be clear, not even remotely. And I'm like, by your definition of everything, that's basically rape. And he would be like, well, yeah, I would say in that case you got raped. And I was like, and earlier the reason why I gave him this example is because he said that like, well, if you are raping people, even if the other person, like, even if you guys talked it over, like, there should be some punishment there. And I'm like, okay, well, when I woke up that way, that was super hot to me. I really enjoyed it. And then he changed it like, okay, well, it's only rape if the other person decides that it's rape. And I'm like, okay, but can't you see how insanely problematic like that could be too? You know, it's like, because then there are forms of like spousal where a lot of like even women think like, well, I can't be. He is my husband, like he owns my pussy or whatever, right? That shit can be normalized in super traditional communities. So it's like, yeah, it's just, yeah, what are you gonna do, man? It's fucking dumb conversations all the way down.
Super dumb, and so it makes it hard for me to talk about these things candidly because the moment you bring up anything, everyone's ready to label for you. Everyone's ready to tell you how you should feel about your experience, and they start to like fucking try to trick you into thinking like something bad happened. I'm like, bitch, no, it's fine. Like, I'm good. No, but you don't know you're good. All right, then maybe. So how do you know? Are you my psychologist? Like, how do you know? Knowing me a lot less than
the retroactive trauma is what I call it, where people try to take an event that like, you know, you realize you're like, yeah, you know what, actually, I guess that was kind of shitty. I should like assert myself more next time, or like that boundary, I shouldn't have let a person do that. They'll be like, no, that's not enough, honey. You have to realize that you were fucking raped, and I need you to be fucking traumatized about it. Okay, well, Jesus fucking Christ, you know? Yeah.
Right, and so so that's something that kind of confuses me. But on the whole topic of boundaries, it's like, it's a weird thing to look back on experience and have a conversation with somebody and they come back and say, you know what, that actually is. And that's a terrifying thing at the same time. It's just like, I like this girl. I never wanted to, but I did. That's a tough thing to stomach.
Sure.
Because you never think it could be you. You never think it could be you. But if I'm being honest, we didn't know each other that well. I didn't know how to read her signals. I wasn't paying that much attention. Right? She didn't know how to communicate how she felt. But I still hurt. That's a weird thing to stomach. Right? Because you start going through your head like, yo, am something fucking wrong with me? And she's not even upset or croak, but she's like, it was hard for me to like reconcile. I'm like, dang, I fucked up. You know? But you can't have any of these conversations.
Yeah.
Because if you hurt anybody, you're the person. Right? But even the people who may have pushed my boundaries, right? The times I didn't. I don't think of these people as bad folks. They're not bad people. Right? Maybe they have some bad habits and those are conversations that we need to have. But I didn't go like, yo, this bitch is great.
Yeah.
This person assaulted me. But yo, what they did, I didn't like it. And there was a conversation to be had afterwards. But there's no room for empathy or sympathy in these discussions. We frame anybody who does it, especially men specifically, as the worst thing possible. Did you see that story about the dude here on YouTube, like this TikToker who I think got like, he said he finally came out with a video where saying he was sexual. It's a TikToker was like, he was asleep, and the other girls also TikTok to try to make out with him. And it was caught on video, and then it went viral on TikTok.
Wait, oh shit, say this again. I think we watched this on stream. Describe this one more time.
So they're both TikTokers, famous. Like he looks like a model, okay? All right? Yeah, like a model who surfs every morning and just wakes up and lives on it, right? That's what he looks like. And she's like a kind of brownish or whatever. And he was asleep, and she goes to make out with him, and someone's filming. Sienna, yes. Sienna, I don't remember.
Okay.
So she came out with a video after that came out, right? Saying like, yo, that didn't happen. It's not the way you guys are framing it. And then everything kind of just died down. Even though it's on camera, this dude's like passed out. Right? And then like, then people brought it up again, and she came out with a second video, and everyone's like, okay, it's cool. Then, like 9-10 months later, this guy finally came out with the video, like, yeah, she really fucked me up for a long time. And what she did was terrible. And he goes into detail about what she did. And everyone's like, you know what, this is bad. But I'm like, do you think a dude would have had an opportunity to make 3-4 apology videos when he's caught on camera making out with a girl who's passed out and who everyone says wasn't conscious? Do we really think that?
Yeah.
If Call Me Carson had a video of him fondling the